We are live, except this sound is going to drive me crazy. Um, we're live. We're getting live. We're live-ish. Trying to figure out where this sound is coming from. It's driving me crazy. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Man, we are excited about the last episode of the Culture and Code weekly show. Guess I should have got my lighting set up before this. What am I doing? Today is experimental day. We're going to try to broadcast in Clubhouse at the same time. So bear with me. I'm doing some technical stuff to begin with. It's really incredible to be. Let me go ahead and turn Clubhouse on. Sorry. Let me open up my Clubhouse room. Let visitors in. Yo. Okay. We're going live. We're going live. We're going live. I'm going to send you to the audience because we're going to just keep this thing to the people that we're streaming to. Oh, no. I got to send you to the audience. How do I do that? Okay, cool. So we're going live. We're doing something different today. We're broadcasting within Clubhouse, and we're broadcasting outside of Clubhouse. And I'm really, really excited to be coming to you with the final episode of Culture and Code Weekly. This has really been a year for a lot of us that has challenged us. It's challenged so many of us, challenged my family in ways I can't even explain. And I am just humbled that, one, that this show happens every week, that we can talk about culture, we can talk about business, and we can talk about life. And we try to do that in a compact hour. I'm trying to do that today at the same time broadcasting within Clubhouse. So, Carrie, stay on stage and just hush up. There we go. There we go. So I'm doing something different today because I'm trying to broadcast to Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Clubhouse at the same time. So bear with me. Carrie is my cousin. Carrie, just stay quiet, stay on mute. Perfect. The Authenticated is a community of investors and founders and creatives born out of my desire to bring together a community. We call ourselves a more diverse Soho house in the cloud. My journey is one that, I've always had to sort of figure out industries that I was going into. And I couldn't do that without mentors and mentoring and community. My first stop in my career was in the music business. And in the 90s, I was a Bay Area kid who was really fortunate enough to know nothing about the music industry. And I see. I'm on mute in Clubhouse. Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. I was on mute in Clubhouse. Thank you, guys. I was having a whole thing and no one heard it in Clubhouse. Thank you so much. Let's take it from the top again. We're trying something new today. We are broadcasting Culture and Code, the weekly show. We're broadcasting it within Clubhouse, but we're also on Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, all the things, LinkedIn. Thank you so much for continuing to listen to us every week. The Authenticated is something very dear to me. It's a community that I built 4 years ago, out of a desire to build a business in community, to think about community very deeply, and to think about how I can serve and how I can be of service to people. And this year has been so challenging for so many of us. Both the healthcare system, the system itself has challenged so many of us, and my family has not been immune to that. And so this has also been a year of growth, a year of operating under darkness, the ability to be creative in the unknown, to create at scale, great ideas, to help founders do great things, but doing all of that under duress, and all of that under really, really challenging conditions. And so I just wanted to start this last episode of the year just by thanking those who have been part of our authenticated community, and have chosen to take this journey with us. And the weekly show, which I'm really excited that we've been doing. I've never broadcast inside of Clubhouse at the same time. There's a lot of people listening in on Clubhouse, and then there's a lot of you out in the worlds of Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. And I'm very, very thankful for each of you. I decided to build The Authenticated because I have been building my career in community the entire time. I am nothing without my community. I'm nothing without the folks who have pushed me along and folks that I've pushed along. My first stop was in the music industry, where I was just a Bay Area kid who got really lucky and met some incredible people when I was like 18 or 19. And I decided that I wanted to work in the music business after dropping out of college to pursue a career in the record business. And none of that happens without, a community, folks pre-social media who decided to take a bet on me. And I never forget that. And so The Authenticated is really an extension of kind of giving back to and paying homage to, operating and building and growing. And I often say that being an entrepreneur is a very lonely planet. And, you can't achieve these things we're really trying to do something. This is something special today. I've never streamed and done this thing in Clubhouse at the same time, so bear with me. But yeah, none of what we want to achieve in our professional endeavors happens without the support of a community. And so, as I moved from the music industry into technology, it was the early group of New York City technologists that really helped inspire me. In the 90s, there was a guy named Omar Wasow. He was an incredible inspiration in my life. He went to Stanford. He wore dreads. He created Black Planet. And New York City in 97, 98, if you were Black and wanted to get into technology, do you guys hear me out there in Instagram world? I mean, you guys, can you hear me? Just sound check. Okay, cool. I didn't even know that there was a career possibility in the world of technology. And if it was not for, guys like Omar Wasow, who, really I think built a community in New York City called New York Online. And there were a bunch of us that were in that community. None of what I'm able to achieve in technology happens. And so I'm very, very thankful. So that's a lot of what we do in The Authenticated, is sort of create bridges. I have this belief that mentoring is vertical. It's not horizontal. I am being mentored by my daughter, who's 19, just as much as I'm mentoring young people. I'm being, inspired every day by founders in our network, like Maxine Marcus, who started her business when she was in high school and now runs it out of her dorm room at USC. I find that we can be inspired by anybody, and we should be inspired by anybody. And so it's another sort of reason that The Authenticated was built. And it was built to, as a reaction. I'm in all these fancy clubs, right? I'm in Soho House and Summit Series and brilliant minds and all these organizations that I've been, really fortunate enough to be a part of. But I always felt this sort of air of exclusivity, and I wanted it to. I don't come from a traditional background where, like in particular, like in the venture capital world, where like I would even get the invite, right? And so in every journey in my career, I've had to fight to sort of prove myself, I guess. And after years of doing that, I turned 50 this year. You just get to a point where you're like, okay, well, maybe there's another way to do this, and maybe there's other people out there like me who don't fit into a traditional system or a traditional framework. And that's really what I built Authenticated for is sort of us, the misfits, those who maybe didn't fit into the traditional system. And that's kind of who I've been my entire journey. I wasn't supposed to graduate from high school and did, and there was a song by Kool Moe Dee that was out that year called How You Like Me Now, and I obnoxiously taped How You Like Me Now on the back of my gown and turned around and faced the crowd as I graduated from high school. And I've always been that person. When I went in the music industry, same thing. I wanted to do things differently, and so that's essentially what we built Authenticated for. That's why we do this weekly show, is to bring to you inspiring people in our network that are going against the grain, that are boldly taking a step into their creative aspirations, their entrepreneurial aspirations, and really a place where you can find other people like you who are doing great things, who maybe don't fit the mold. So we've been really fortunate. We've had oh gosh, a few weeks ago we had my friend Chloe McIntosh, who was the creative director at Soho House. She founder, mother of three, decided to bet on herself and built a platform and an app called Comma, which is there to solve sexual boredom. And she's raised $3.2 million, and she is phenomenal. So if you guys are regular followers of the show, for those of you in Clubhouse who are just getting to know what we do on the weekly basis in Twitch, and for those of you just joining, welcome to Culture & Co Weekly. It's a weekly show that we do in Twitch, in all kinds of platforms, and we decided to broadcast inside of Clubhouse this week because we have a special guest, which I'm really excited to bring her into the room, Noelle, who some of you in Clubhouse know and should know and will know after today. She directed the Lion King production, and we're going to talk about the creative economy and creative culture. And so very excited you guys are joining me. Thank you, Carrie, for being my proxy and sitting on stage and being on mute. Thank you. Stay there. And for those of you watching in Twitch, twitch.tv/keyinfluencer, welcome to you guys. You guys have been loyal viewers of this weekly show, and I really, really appreciate the inspiration that you give me. I see you in the chat room. Thank you for shouting out your cities. I love cities. I move around the world a lot, so I love being able to shout out your city. We use this space and this time to look at what's happened in the week. That's generally the format, and then we will have a guest that comes on, like Chloe McIntosh, or we had Stephanie Simon from Clubhouse talk about her career, another person that's cut from the same cloth that I'm cut from. So you'll start to see a theme of folks that are in our network and folks that are in our community, of people that are deciding to do things differently and don't want to be defined. And I think that largely kind of describes my career. I guess when people look at my LinkedIn profile, it's like they always, people who are more traditionalists, looking at, well, how did you go from music to advertising and advertising to tech and then tech and venture? Like, it makes sense to me. But for some people who've had more of a linear path, who have cut away at one thing, it might be somewhat confusing. But I think what I've been driven by is curiosity. I'm someone who is insanely curious about business and about life, and so I appreciate those. I said this the other day on Twitter. I love people whose mothers don't know what they do for a living. Those are my kind of people. Like I don't think my mom knows at all what I do for a living, and I'm 50 and been working since 22, and have been the breadwinner, chief breadwinner in my family, and really my mom knows that I make money, but I don't think she really understands what I do. So, Mom, if you're watching, which we are broadcasting in Facebook, I do interesting things. Don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. Your mother always worries about you. So yeah, as I mentioned, we choose this hour and this space and this day as an opportunity to bring to you things that we think are inspiring during the week. It's a chance for me to get out of my head, either meetings that I've taken during the week, and yeah, I do. I live in this crazy world where my world could be. I just saw my friend Princess Martha Louise in the room. Well, it could be Princess Martha Louise, who's a princess in Norway, who I saw in the Clubhouse room. It could be a rapper. It could be a venture capitalist. It could be a farmer. Because my business is sort of designed to be a reflection of the lifestyle that I want to live. It's funny. Yesterday, I had a session with a coach, like a coach who helps people. This particular coach is connected to me through the through a Tony Hsieh connection, and he's a wonderful guy. We're just getting started, and he asked me to look at my life through the lens of livelihood, legacy, and lifestyle, which I thought was a really, and he sort of called it the North Star. Like, what's your North Star? And I thought about it, and the lifestyle that, and he basically asked me, and he posed the question, where do you want to be, 12, 20, 21, let's just call it 12, 21, 21. In 12, 21, 21, I think for me, the world, and the way I would have answered that pre-pandemic would have been that, I would be, really a nomadic. We just empty nested in my house. So I think the idea of having a base in several places has always been an aspiration for me. As a part of the work that I do, I've been really fortunate to have a crew in Dubai, a crew in Tel Aviv, a crew in Stockholm, a crew in the Bay Area, a crew in Atlanta for sure. We actually, still have a place in Atlanta. My mom is there. And I think, when I answered that question, it was like, how do I move around the world and still be able to do what I'm doing? And then from a legacy standpoint, the answer was really easy. It is, how do I take my talent, my network, and continue to support great ideas, great people, great movements. And I think for me, it's about continuing to push myself to be open to, like, I find myself in Clubhouse, for instance. I'm staring at Clubhouse for you guys. And for you guys who are not in Clubhouse, in the world out there of Twitch and Facebook and so forth, send me a text message, 415-843-8100. Let's see if we can get you in Clubhouse, 415-843-8100. To all my loyal followers, I'd love to give you an invite so you can join me in Clubhouse. And if it works out, and if we have enough invites, I'll certainly send you one. But when I think about even how I journey through Clubhouse, I'm spending time in the East African room. I'm spending time in, like, the rooms that are maybe not the most popular rooms, but the rooms that have really, really smart conversations that inspire me. And so that's what we do. We kind of built our own Clubhouse before we joined Clubhouse. I've done 100 virtual dinners in the pandemic, and we call them Jeffersonian dinners, primarily because I used to serve on the visiting committee at University of Miami. My son was a violinist at the University of Miami in the Frost School of Music, and there was a guy who invented the Jeffersonian dinner process. It's a really interesting thing. It basically just means, and I've sort of augmented it. It's, you sit around a table and you choose one sort of provocative kind of point, and everybody discusses that point. And I built a tour called Culture and Code, where we would bring investors and founders and creatives to great cities that are not Palo Alto, not Austin, not some of the more brand name cities. And I loved it. We went to Detroit, Miami, DC, and we would start the first night with a dinner where we would, sit down with someone in the market, folks in the market who are doing incredible things, as well as people in the market that invest in technology and startups and real estate. And we would ask this provocative question because I really wanted to get under what drives Miami, what drives Detroit. And the provocative question that we would usually ask is, because I have this theory that I fall in love with cities like lovers. And so I made people describe their city as their lover. And it drew all these really interesting points, right? Like, I love New York, but I'm mad at New York. I love Miami, but Miami makes me mad. And I was able to draw out so much rich data points because I gave people a provocative sort of prompt. And so anyway, that's kind of a larger version. Jeffersonian dinners are usually 12 people. Those dinners were usually 25 people, 30 people. And but when the pandemic hit, instead of moving around the country, which we've been doing for 3 or 4 years, we decided to instead do that within the streaming space. And it was a way for me to also get to know really incredible people. I see Omari in the crowd in Clubhouse. Omari is an incredible developer out of DC. But I got the opportunity to meet people that I never, because of the constraints of not being able to travel, I got the opportunity to really connect with people in a very intentional way. And so we designed about 100 of these this year. And for those of you that were able to attend, thank you so much. We had many nights. We had nights where we cried, where we laughed. And that was really something that was special in March, April, May of the pandemic. And I really feel like there was just so much growth that we were all processing together what we were going through. In the second pandemic that we like to call it around this house, George Floyd and during that period, that's when I joined Clubhouse and had another extension and another community to process with. At the time, Clubhouse was a lot smaller, but it was a great outlet for us to process with white folks, Black folks, Puerto Ricans, and Haitians. That was a shout out to my B-boys in the audience. It really was a special moment. So today is the last episode of Culture and Code Weekly, but an opportunity to reflect on a year that for all of us has been challenging. And for me, though no one in my family was impacted or contracted COVID, I still had to deal with the healthcare system. I still had to deal with law enforcement in my family. And I will move into 2021 with a huge degree of security and confidence, because I do believe that your network is your net worth, and that this community that we've built in the Authenticated is very, very special and very, very treasured to me. So for those of you, we have a application form. I'll tweet it out. We're building a new cohort for 2021. We're doing what we call sorority teas. Next week, we'd love to see you. we'd love to have you in the midst of what we're doing, and I'm very, very excited. So a few things I wanted to touch on before we have our guest Noelle, because we do this during this show. I like to look at my whiteboard here. If you guys are watching me on the video, I have my lab here, and this is my whiteboard. And the three things I think that I was interested in, one is I don't think I really had a chance to just pay respect to Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, who passed away. Tony and I weren't necessarily like super close, but I did spend time with him. I met him on this bus that he used to bring to South by Southwest, and it was so odd. I didn't really know who he was. We were connected through a mutual friend, and Tony was just like super generous and super giving, and really sad to hear that he passed away. And don't know all the particulars. It sounds like he was struggling with mental health, and as a caretaker and as someone who has family member with mental health challenges, I just want to say that it's the healthcare system is getting more impacted with everything that's going on. It's not kind to us. The insurance industry is not kind to mental health. Law enforcement is not kind to mental health. So, for those of you that don't know a lot about mental health, and ways to combat, there's basic anxiety and depression, and that I think a lot of us have, right? And would be happy to talk about my meditation journey and how I was able, the last 3 or 4 years to really to build a practice. And I would not have made it through this year without that practice. But for those with more severe conditions, schizophrenia, bipolar, those sorts of things, or those of you taking care of folks with that kind of condition, it's a journey, and happy to talk about, at any time. It might even do a club in Clubhouse about that. And so, so Tony, hats off to you. You were one of a kind. I got to spend a lot of time in Las Vegas as he was building the downtown project. Shout out to Amanda Slavin, who is in Clubhouse. She used to build these weekends where we would go, founders and investors and creatives, and we would go to a part of Las Vegas that I would never have gone to, the older part of Las Vegas where the Golden Nugget is. And Tony was building something very, very, very special. And just back to my original thought about community, Tony was really intent on the community and intentional about building community and using his fortune to build Zappos, which he moved to from Henderson to downtown, and to just always be a gracious host and to be giving. So shout out to Tony, and go check out his book Delivering Happiness, and he's truly missed. We also saw that Reebok and Baron Davis and Master P are considering buying Clubhouse. Buying Clubhouse. Sorry. Buying Reebok. Sorry. I'm looking at text messages that are coming in on the stream, and then I'm also like trying to give you the rundown. But yeah, shout out to Baron Davis. I've known Baron for a little bit, fellow UCLA Bruin. He and Master P are rumored to be acquiring Reebok. I think it's a great deal. If it was able to come to fruition, I think Master P and Baron Davis would be fascinating owners of a company. I think that for me, this is the era of the creative and the designer. So while Baron Davis and Master P have great brand names and certainly will be able to attract some capital, I think it's really all about leaning into Reebok's heritage, and really finding the right design team. And a lot of that has been shared on Clubhouse. I sat in some really smart rooms with people much smarter than I am. I was a CMO of Echo Unlimited, so I spent a year or so in fashion business. And I certainly am someone who can look at the deal from a perspective, but I think the perspective that I've been able to take away from some of the conversations I've been hearing, which really makes a lot of sense, is this is the moment when the designer, Jerry Lorenzo, who recently just, did a deal. He's the Fear of God founder, and some of the other great designers. I feel like 2021 and 2022, as I've been saying on this show for the last few months, is the year of the creative, and it's the moment for the creative. And I think that we're going to start to see incredible designers come out of this. So if I was in a position of advisory to Master P and Baron, I would certainly be honing in on design talent, but like design talent that comes from like not traditional, very non-traditional. I think it'd be really, really important to have non-traditional design talent. And I think the deal is interesting, and I think it would be for an athlete and a former athlete and a rapper to come into that opportunity would be great. And I would expect nothing less. I would expect that they would treat that deal and look at it and do something different. The challenge in those kinds of things are your board, are the people, the private equity firm. And you really need to get the ability to make moves without, and getting your investors to trust, the decisions you're making, and to have operators at the operational level that are, because Master P and Baron Davis aren't going to be operators. So to make sure that you have like an operational structure that gives you the fluidity to take chances. I think that the fashion business is about taking chances and really betting on culture. And I just haven't seen like large organizations like that really trust the guidance of the creative culture inside the building. Nike was my biggest client when I owned my agency. And it just, I feel like I got to see a lot, and it would be great to see a more nimble, agile organization that thinks about fashion and that apparel business at the speed of culture. I like to always say that you need to move at the speed of culture. Like lots of pieces need to be in place, and so that deal works if you put the right pieces in place at all levels. And then the last thing is Russell Okong, who's a member of Authenticated. Certainly has been a friend of mine. He plays in the NFL, and I just saw yesterday. I have not talked to Russell. We just reached out to him yesterday. That he is looking to get half of his salary paid in Bitcoin, and I thought that was really interesting. And expected nothing less from my friend Russell on that. He has been a huge champion of Bitcoin, and hopefully we'll have him on the show. I just reached out to him, but I think it signals a few things. Russell has always signaled for me as looking at the world of sports. Russell Okong has always stood up and been different. Again, back to the beginning of this episode, I really attract and look for folks who are different, who don't cut the mold. And Russell Okong is one of those guys. He's a lineman who could be a venture capitalist. He is a creative, and he's just a good dude. And shout out to Russell and his wife. Very, very good people. I'm excited to talk about his desire to be paid in Bitcoin. And I think it signals, what we can look for in the future from athletes who want to take control of their career. But it also signals Bitcoin and the rise of the blockchain. And we'll talk a lot more about that in 2021. It's something, kick myself. My friend Galia Bernardzi in Tel Aviv, who started a company called Bancor, very good friend of mine, also a graduate of Palo Alto High School. Shout out to my Palo Alto High School folks out there. She told me many, many years ago, full transparency, I missed the whole crypto space, missed the whole Bitcoin thing. But I'm fascinated by the blockchain and what the future of that looks like. We'll talk a lot more about that in 2021. All right. So I told you we had a special guest today. And, like I mentioned, I've been on Clubhouse since May, and been able to see so many creative people. And what my little secret cheat code in Clubhouse is, I sit and listen in rooms, and then I probably do 3 or 4 meetings a week with people that I meet within Clubhouse. And so when it was May, June, July, I was like listening to really, really smart people, and I would just lay back in the cut, and then I would, schedule meetings. And one of those meetings I scheduled was with Noelle Chesnut Whitmore. And we just got to know each other, and I would do that. I would find myself doing that. That's what I do anyway. I would do that when we were moving around physically, but I decided to do that in Clubhouse, and I got to spend time with Noelle and got to know her. And so for those of you that did not get a chance to witness what happened on the platform, to me, it is indicative of, I always like to say that platforms launch without instruction manuals, and Clubhouse certainly launched without an instruction manual. I think Paul and Rohan would say that, we were all part of this experiment of building the plane while we're flying it. And I love that so many creatives were a part of the first wave of Clubhouse, because we got to freak it, just like we've done everything. Just like I was on Twitter in the beginning days, and I remember when Shaq was on Twitter in the beginning, and I remember when platforms like Vine launched, where again, if not for the Atlanta culture, Vine wouldn't have been what Vine is. Shout out to my folks in Atlanta. And in that same vein, Clubhouse would not be Clubhouse without the creative experiments. And so last week we were witness to that. And that experiment was the idea of taking, theater and taking creativity and bringing it to the world. And so I asked Noelle to join us today. Again, Noelle, this is a first for us. Noelle is joining me within Clubhouse. Noelle is joining me on my screen, which is so weird. I've never done this before. And you look great today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, hold on. This is the problem when you're doing this at home. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, let's try. Now mute yourself. Let's see. How do I do this? Let me turn. How do I hear you? Let me see. How will that work? Okay. If I'm talking to you on this screen, they're going to hear me.
On Clubhouse.
Oh, right. That's right. Thank you. You figured that out. Where are you? Noelle? I don't see you in Clubhouse. If you join me in Clubhouse, I'll bring you on stage. Thank you guys for your patience. We're trying something we've never done before. We are broadcasting around the world of the internet at the same time as Clubhouse. Oh, there's a lot of people in this Clubhouse right now. Come back into so I can see you in Clubhouse, because I don't see you. Oh, there you are. You changed your profile picture. Okay. There we go. How's that? Perfect. But now the people in Twitch are probably hearing me twice, right? It's okay. We're gonna roll with it. Well, welcome. Thank you.
I'm excited to be here and appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you back. I was saying I got to know you I guess it was, when did you join Clubhouse?
I actually joined Clubhouse on my dad's birthday, September 9th.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Was it, besides it being significant for your dad's birthday, who invited you? Like, what was it? Like,
so I'm one of the rare peeps on Clubhouse now that has not been nominated by anyone. So if you go into my profile, there is no nomination badge. So
love it.
The story of how I got to Clubhouse is kind of funny. So I obviously, like all of us, I was, we all have been affected by the pandemic. And I was on I had a phone call with one of my friends, Yannick Kofi, and I was having a conversation with him of talking about how I wasn't feeling inspired. Like so many people in dealing with the pandemic, me dedicating the past 11 years of my life to production, live events, and concerts, found myself in a position and in a place where, for the first time in a very long time, working. So I had worked at Golden Voice for the past 5 years.
Right.
Working on festivals like Coachella and Stagecoach and Camp Flog Gnaw and Desert Trip and Day in Vegas, and a variety of festival properties that are under the Golden Voice umbrella. And for the first time, was gonna have, we left the office in March, and we're like, okay, we'll be back in like a month or so, and
right.
we'll be back, and we'll do Coachella, we'll do all these things, we'll be back. But as this time kind of went on, we realized, oh man, we're not coming back like anytime soon, like at all. So myself, just like everybody else in the live and event space and the film space, we're like, whoa, what are we gonna do? And so in my conversation with my friend and my homie Thurs, I was just like, yo, I'm not feeling inspired. I'm kind of depressed. This just isn't it. And he was like, well, have you heard about Clubhouse? And I was like, Clubhouse? What's Clubhouse? I've never heard of this. What is this? And then he was like, you should check it out. And I was like, okay, cool. So I Googled, I found Clubhouse, searched Clubhouse, I found some articles about Clubhouse. And then I was like, oh, so I'm friends with Fadia. And I was like, this is the thing that Fadia has been posting on her socials on Instagram for the past couple of months, and I just didn't know what it was. So then at this point in time, I found the app, downloaded the app, and here I am. Joined Clubhouse. So my first week on Clubhouse, I was like, what is this? I don't understand. This is an amazing community of investors and creatives. And there were at this time when I had joined, I guess it was like kind of starting the music industry creative community had just started to join due to a bunch of other people and sending out invites to kind of diversify the platform. And it was some of the most magical, amazing experiences. Yeah. My first week is how I found Umani and the Cotton Club. Right. And I was like, what? Like, there's a virtual club on Clubhouse, and they're selling drinks, and they're listening to music, and like, I don't understand, like, how this works. So from that, it's kind of that mind-blowing moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is whatever we create this to be. Right. Like, literally, right. This platform is whatever the creator wants it to be. So for me, I immediately was like, okay, cool. Like, in addition to working at Golden Voice, I'm a founder of an organization called More Music, which is how I connected with you, James, where I normally host music panels that are focused on educating the community about the different career paths in music that I usually host in partnership with the Grammy Museum in LA. So obviously couldn't do that anymore. So I was like, okay, well, Clubhouse is amazing. I hadn't moved to doing anything on Instagram because I just didn't feel like it was going to connect the way that I wanted it to with the audience. Didn't do Zoom, same thing. And at that point, like, panels and music industry conversations were being oversaturated. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to pause on this, and I'm going to let everybody be great and do amazing things. And then I'll come back when we're able to come back, and I'll continue to do my more music panels. But then I found Clubhouse, and I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like what I've been able to create in person.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you one question. Yep. So in your history of like platforms, had you started to build were you a person who had built a following on Twitter or any other platforms, or was this like the first platform that you kind of invested in?
This was the first platform I invested in at this level because, so Twitter is so funny. if anybody goes on my Instagram, there's a hilarious video when we ended up going viral this weekend where I yell, I don't even use Twitter. Because I hadn't used Twitter since 2013.
Yeah.
And literally, I only reactivated my Twitter because there was back channel conversations, and this was the way that I kept in contact with my Clubhouse community.
Right.
I was like, well, I guess I'm going to reactivate my Twitter so I can talk to the Clubhouse people outside of just, connecting with people on stage. So that was literally the only reason why I had got back on Twitter. And I was annoyed with Twitter because I'm like, why? I can't say what I want to say in 150 characters or less. Like, it's just not my organic way.
Sure.
Instagram, love Instagram, amazing, great way to connect with a bunch of creatives. And initially I was like, I think like a lot of people who just posted. And then I was like, this is cool. And then it turned into a situation where I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to connect and network. But in addition to create a network, it creates an opportunity for me to kind of showcase my portfolio in a new medium. And also connect with really, really dope creatives and do whatever came natural to me. For me personally, I love Instagram, but for me, it just felt to produce.
Sure.
Like, I am very much so a person who is just myself. And I felt like my natural self is not going to take selfies and post and take photo shoots and stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just not the medium that speaks to my voice and
sure.
my authenticity.
Sure.
So then when I got on Clubhouse, I was like, wait, what? I can be in my pajamas and talk to people? This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And it gave me the opportunity where for the first time in a very long time, I know what my value is, but for the first time in a long time, it allowed, which I don't seek validation from people,
right.
but it allowed my voice, and solely my voice.
Right.
Not what I do, not who I work for, not that I can sing, not that I have connections or relationships, not because nothing. Just
right.
me, my mind, who I am. For the first time, I was kind of getting recognized, I guess. I still don't fully understand for being myself.
Sure.
And my authentic, true self. For those who know me in real life, know that who I am on Clubhouse is exactly who I am in real life.
Right.
And I know I've grown a new family here, so some people don't know that. But for my friends who do know me, know that I'm like, no, there's a level of consistency of who I am and who I choose to be, and a reputation that I choose to uphold for myself, not for anybody else, that is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
My parents raised me a way that I want to make them proud and center making them proud and representing myself as well as my people at the best standard possible. So it was one of those situations where I felt I gave myself permission to be,
mm-hmm.
and be nothing else than just be. No matter what that looked like, no matter how I felt, I gave myself permission to be whoever God made Noelle to be at any moment, any second, any time.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am.
Mm-hmm. Look at you. I loved when we first talked, because I think you heard me in the intro. Like, I tend to attract, be drawn to, connect with the people who don't have the traditional pathway and traditional route. And I remember when we met, I just, and we've only had 3 conversations total in life, but I remember I was really, I really loved your story, that your way of even getting, and your hustle and your grind felt like very reminiscent of my hustle and my grind of like, I'm just going to like figure this out. And if my memory serves me well, which it doesn't always do, you like just figured it out in college, and just, you didn't ask permission. You just became the thing you wanted to become. And I am doing that. That's who I am. I didn't have a economics degree from UCLA. In fact, I dropped out of UCLA, but here I am in this position doing interesting things. And I didn't even in the music industry, I didn't even have like I'm from the Bay. I didn't really know like people in the music industry, and I feel like you and I bonded on that non-traditional approach. I know you're not even from metropolitan LA. Well, I think you're from outside LA, right? And I like all of you.
And I have to represent.
Yeah, represent it.
So I'm from Victorville, California.
Victorville. Yep.
A part of Southern California. I represent the Inland Empire.
Yep.
For the kids back home, for the city of Victorville and the high desert.
Love it.
Because they need to know I exist.
Yep.
And here I am not repping LA, love LA, live in LA, but I'm from Victorville. I'm from the Inland Empire.
I love that. And that was the other thing I was really drawn to when we first met. We built this tour called Culture and Code, and I went to high school in Palo Alto, and I moved to Atlanta, and I was always like, why is Atlanta trying to call itself the Palo Alto of the South? Just be Atlanta. And I'm fascinated and spend a lot of time in cities like Chattanooga, Tennessee. Most people don't even realize has the fastest Wi-Fi in the country, or some of these other markets. And so that was the IE. I remember that from our conversation. That was another attractive feature of your background. Maybe talk a little bit about, your, like, what Clubhouse, like if you were that IE kid 10 years ago and you then had Clubhouse, how would you move differently, I guess? How would your moves be different? And what can we do to inspire more people in the IE?
So I have a question. Do I have Clubhouse and we're in a pandemic, or do I just have Clubhouse?
Oh, that's a fair retort. That's a fair response back. Because you're right. I guess we have to add the layer of pandemic. Okay, so let's say non-pandemic.
Oh man. So that means I would have been, 10 years ago, I would have been 22. I would have been out of college.
Okay.
So, and at that point I was working, I think at the Grammys, or I was at Abrams Artist Agency. So I think if I had Clubhouse about 10 years ago, I would have probably been playing with it and hacking it a little bit and meeting new people and figuring out a way, because at that time I was working with the Grammys on their music preservation event.
Okay.
That took place during Grammy Week. So I would have been probably figuring out a way to try to figure out how we can do maybe interviews with some of the artists that were featured on the performance, to kind of just straight do like awareness. Because like I was a production assistant, but I also did helps with some product placement and sponsorship and stuff like that during that time. So I probably would have been doing that and just probably do what I do now, which is meet some cool folks on Clubhouse and then hang in social rooms that I call my living room.
Well, it's so weird. Like in a weird episode of Sliding Doors, I worked on the Grammy Awards. They were my client for 3 years. I did 3 shows. And you clearly would have been one of those people that, I would have been talking to. I worked with Beverly Jackson. You know Bev Jack? Remember Bev Jack?
I know the name.
Oh, maybe she was after you.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting.
Yeah, well, she was great. But I think you're one of those people, again, like me, that would, I was a kid that worked at a law firm in Century City and had my own personalized stationery and tried to meet people as they came into the law firm. And you sound like that exact same person. Let's fast forward to, you've now been on Clubhouse for a while. You're finding your creative Jones. You're seeing people like Bomani do really creative expressions using the platform. How did the performance of the show, the Lion King, how did that idea come to fruition, and then what was ultimately your leadership role in that?
I think the beauty of Clubhouse and the beauty of a lot of the people that I've met in Clubhouse is that we're just ourselves. And so through some pushing of by some of my Clubhouse fam, in one of my social rooms, I got pushed to sing on this app.
To sing. Oh, really? I didn't know you were singing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my career in music started as a singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist at the age of 15, 16.
You did tell me that. It's coming back. Yes.
Yes. So I started. That's how I started. So I have not, like, I put that aside a long time ago to pursue the business side of music industry. And, you know, I do it for myself. I do it for the love of it. I have a passion for just music as a whole, but singing was one of those things that I was like, you know what? I do so many things for business. Music and singing is going to be the thing that I just do for me, and the passion, but more of a passion of like my love for it. So I got pushed by a bunch of fun friends.
Right.
Shout out to Bumani and Damo and everyone who was in that room when I sang for the first time on Clubhouse.
What did you sing? By the way, what did you sing that first time?
I think Frank Ocean's "Thinking About You." That's always been like one of my go-tos.
So okay.
I kept saying that, and then from there, that is when Bumani was already, I think, doing the guitar like performances live on Clubhouse, where he was just playing his guitar.
Yeah.
So then after that moment, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm singing now. So I sang on the app. And then me, Bumani, and that's how we met Pam Dela, who served as the second music director with Bumani for Lion King. So the three of us were just normally in our, like, every week we would go into Bumani's jam sessions. We'd sing with a bunch of other amazing singers like Tatiana Sneed and Shane, aka Hayes, and like so many other people that are like a part of my gang fam on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And one day, randomly, I guess Bumani and Chris had already connected, or they had heard each other before this, but Chris, this guy named Chris Boogie, my brother, the reason why this all happened, stumbled in the room.
Okay.
We're all singing. He raised his hand and he was like, yo, and I was like, oh, I'm like, dog, like your voice is crazy. Like you sound like James Earl Jones. I'm like, I don't know if anyone has ever told you this, but it's acting. And then I was like, okay, can you read Green Eggs and Ham? Which is random,
right.
Whatever. It was just in my head. Can you read Dr. Seuss' Green Eggs and Ham? And he started reading it, and then Rumani started playing the guitar in the background. So that was a moment. It was what it was. I was like, this man's voice is insane.
Right.
This is crazy. So then we moved on. We're all friends now. We all know each other now.
Okay.
So then I think later on that week or the following week, I started a room. Actually, I have to bring the whole crew in. So on Clubhouse, I started a Noelle plus Noelle United room because this was in the first time of my life. I have never seen as many Noelles in my life, period. So to try to bait the rest of the Noelles,
right.
Which I think there are 30 of them, I started a Noelle plus Noelle.
That's funny.
And that is how I met Noelle Braham, a few other Noelles, which is Noelle Braham and Miles Greer are friends. So Miles Greer came in, who played Simba, and also served as like one of the producers and directors, or producers, and gave a lot of feedback and helped a lot behind the scenes so much. That's how I met Miles Greer.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, cool. Me and Miles Greer have established a relationship. He comes into my social rooms. We're cool. We're friends, right? So then now, here we are. I start this random room. It's me, Rumani. Chris comes in the audience.
Okay.
Cam is there. And I think Mir was there. And Chris came in the audience, and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, you need to hear this man's voice.
Right.
So I bring him up, and he's like, yo. He gets kind of, he's like, yo. And I was like, Chris, remember, can you read Green Eggs and Ham again? And he was like, yes. So apparently, I think Leland had created this Photoshop photo with Bumani's baby face, that we all know, Bumani in the tub, on Simba. And I don't know how, I don't remember, this is where I need the gang to tell me, but somehow that photo came up. And I was like, yo, Chris, can you read something from Lion King? And he was like, sure, but if I do it, I need someone else to like go back and forth with me. Well, then Miles was like, okay, cool, like I'll read Simba. And then the two of them got ready, they did their thing, and they did the Simba, you have deliberately disobeyed me. Oh, I know. And we still have the original audio, so they went back and forth, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. Like,
right.
The chemistry, the natural chemistry of strangers.
Right.
So then from there, I was like, Chris, you are amazing. The fact that you don't, has anybody ever talked to you about being a voice actor? Because you have a natural gift that some people need to hear.
Right.
This is crazy. And he was like, no, I've never done it professionally. And then at the time, there was two people in the audience. There was someone from Complex, and there was someone who worked at an agency.
Okay.
And they had raised their hand, and they're like, oh my gosh, I think one of them was Altron. And he was like, yo, I work for an agency, and we have a voice acting department.
Wow.
And I want to connect you with one of the voice actor agents, and we'll have so you guys can have a meeting.
Right.
So, and then someone from Complex had came up and saying, hey, we're working on a series. We'd love to have a conversation about potentially having you featured in this. And
this is all pre you guys doing the performance, right?
Correct. So this was like 2 months ago, or
okay.
a month and a half ago.
Okay, wow.
And from there, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do Lion King. We have to do Lion King. And my sole purpose of doing Lion King is this man, Chris, needs to understand that he has a talent that maybe for some reason he hasn't been nurtured the way that he needs to be nurtured in order for him to feel confident in this talent.
That's right.
So I was like, okay, cool. Like we're gonna do Lion King.
Wow.
For the fun of it. And I was like, I'm gonna commit to doing Lion King. And as soon as that moment, I was like, okay, well, I want a narrator, I want PTR, I want actors, I want live band, and all of these different elements. So one of the main reasons why that idea even came to me is on accident in my social room on Halloween. As I was playing with a bunch of my friends, I changed my profile picture to a white image, had seen someone else do it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. So in one of my social rooms, I had turned my profile to a white image, and I told everyone, everyone turn your profile picture to a white image. And everyone did it, and I was like, oh, let's try to do the wave.
Oh, wow. Right.
With the ring. So we're like trying, and we sucked. It was horrible. And I was like, you know what, stop, guys. Let's not do this. And then Quinn came in the room, and I think he was a part of it. And Quinn started talking. And I was like, Quinn, can you read Thriller? Can you read the intro to Thriller?
Oh, wow.
And he was like, what? And I was like, can you read the intro to Thriller? And then he read it, and I was like, Quinn, you sound just like the guy from Thriller.
Right.
And then Motown Lee was in there, and then Motown randomly played the music.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, I have an idea, guys. And, okay, so we're going to start at this white image. Everyone is quiet. Everyone's off mute. And then Quinn's going to read the intro to Thriller. And then when Motown plays the music, everyone changes their profile picture to a scary photo. And then you know how they do.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody tap your mic to be the Thriller.
Oh.
Tap your mic so we can do the hand wave like we would normally, the iconic part of Thriller.
That's amazing.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Let's go into other rooms, because it was Halloween.
Right.
Like, let's go into other rooms and let's do Thriller, and let's go say Happy Halloween. So
Right.
And during that week, there was a bunch of rumors about Drake being on. So we're like, ooh, let's do a welcome Aubrey Graham room.
Right.
And do Thriller.
Okay.
And we did it. And then people were kind of like, aw, dang, Drake's not here. And we just said, and it was just like a fun community moment. A bunch of other people had joined in, and then it was that was that. Like, it was over. But it was from that idea, I was like I had already started testing.
Yeah.
Imagery, vocal music, all that stuff. So when Lion King came back around, I had already had in my mind the thought that we can play with the app in that way.
Yeah.
So
let me pause you for 1 second, just for a little station ID. For those of you watching in my regular broadcasts in Twitch and Facebook and LinkedIn, and I don't even know, all the places that we broadcast, shout out to you. This year, you've been incredible. This is Culture and Code Weekly. It's a weekly show where we talk about what's happening in culture. We interview incredible people. We talk about the authenticated and some of the deals we're looking at, some of the people that have inspired us. Today, we decided to broadcast both within Twitch, Facebook. I'm doing I'm channeling my Noelle and being super innovative and broadcasting both. This was Noelle's idea, actually, by the way. And broadcasting both within our regularly scheduled video programming, which you guys are watching, and thank you for watching. If you guys in Clubhouse want to see the beautiful and talented Noelle in video, because I think that's also interesting, is like, you're just a voice, but if you guys in Clubhouse want to flip it, go to twitch.tv/keyinfluencer. You can actually do it, I guess, simultaneously, and you can see the video broadcast, and she can wave at you. And then for those of you in my world, if you guys, I have a couple of invites to give you. Text me 415-843-8100, 415-843-8100. Shout out to the 415. Shout out to my Bay Area folks out there. You always chime in. Shout out to Atlanta. I see you. Put your city in the text message so I can. I love shouting out cities. I love telling silly stories about cities. I love talking about your cities. And we are joined by Noelle, who is going through and talking to us about the innovation, the creativity, and the badassery that went into the production known as The Lion King. We're talking about her journey, her story from the Inland Empire to working in the business of touring and the music business. Started off as a singer-songwriter, crushed it, non-traditional, kicked down the door, didn't ask for nobody, and just took it. And in the same spirit that she kicked down the door in the music industry, she's done that in Clubhouse by creating something that the entire world was talking about, and that is this innovative use of creativity. And Clubhouse has been talked about. It's sort of the latest app of the moment. That everybody is sort of talking about. And I even got some pushback. I'm not even gonna name no names out there, but I have friends who are pretty influential, who are not on Clubhouse, who had some things to say and kind of were like, whatever, Lion King, who cares, about Lion King. And you probably saw me defend that in Twitter, because I stand up for creatives, and I think that when I look at what you were able to create in Clubhouse, it reminds me of sample culture, of when we took pieces of songs and we were able to piece together, and yet the old folks were like, that's not real music. What I mean? They just took a Weather Report sample or Isley Brothers sample, and that's not even their, and I always believed that, one of my dear friends is DJ Jazzy Jeff and so many other producers that are friends of mine. I always felt like, not only should they be treated as creative genius, but they also are technology hackers. And there's this interesting collision of creativity and technology innovation that I think our community excels at, and it's one of the things that struck for me as the most innovative part of this is that entire story where you're like, okay, let's play around Halloween and and flip thriller. Let's do these things. We have always been innovators. And I often talk about in my writings and speeches I give about this idea of hip hop is the first ever lean startup, and hip hop is really the manifestation of a technology hack. We took immigrants from Jamaica and Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and they descended on the Bronx, and they had to find the red and green wires to wire up the block jams. And if those folks went to Georgia Tech, you'd call them engineers, but they come from communities where they were my engineers, they were my heroes, and they were the tinkerers. So when I got into the work world, into the record business in the 90s, like, people don't really remember this, but like the people who were tinkering around with technology were the DJs and the producers. So I would have most of my conversations about technology between 95 and 98 with DJ Eddie F, who's Heavy D's DJ, who's a computer science major, or Derek, who, by the way, goes by D Nice today. D Nice was used to build websites for me and my team. Lauryn Hill's brother, Mulaney Hill. There's so many heroes that I feel like were both creatives and technology hackers. And so I just want to put you on that Mount Rushmore, Noelle, today, as someone who I consider a creative and a hacker. That's a high praise from me. And I just want to give you your roses on that, because I think that should be noted, that in addition to being innovative and seeing the opportunity to really pour into this young man, Chris, and to center around him and be inspired by him, but also to have the foresight to go, okay, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this? And to keep going. And everyone won because you decided to lean into that gene. And then Clubhouse, of course, wins. There's certainly been a lot of press and media. I saw TMZ and I saw a bunch of other publications pick it up. But it's really great to be able to hear from you how it all came to be, and to celebrate innovation, Black and brown innovation, which is largely driving this platform, and this platform wouldn't be what it is without those contributions.
Appreciate that. And I think to kind of keep with the narrative of like what happened after that.
Please do. Yes, please do.
So after we all came together, we found Chris, Mia was there, Miles, and Bumani, and Cam, and all of us found each other. We immediately went into, okay, well, I'm committing to do this. Let's do this. And we went into a private conversation, and we're like, okay, well, let's figure this out.
So are you doing this private conversation? This is just technical. In Clubhouse, or are you bouncing to Zoom or something?
It wasn't Zoom. I can't remember if it was. I don't know if it was text, but we ended up having a conversation.
Like, have you guys ever seen each other face to face?
No.
Wow.
No.
Ever?
None of us. Me, Mir, Bumani, Chris, Cam have never met each other in person.
That's dope.
It was all Clubhouse fam.
Uh-oh.
Even when we had our first meeting on Zoom, that was like really, really strange. Like, we had our first, I think, meeting with the whole cast. I think that I had a call with Bumani before, so I had seen what Bumani looked like, but everyone else I had not seen before.
That's beautiful.
So so we ended up hosting auditions, and we're just like, okay, well, we know here are the characters that we know we're gonna need, and we put it on the calendar. I think like maybe less than a week later, and then we had just like, okay, well, we're gonna split this up between two different auditions. We're gonna have the acting audition, narration auditions, and the PTR auditions in one. And then the next day, we're going to host the auditions with the choir and the band the next day. So we had no idea how many people were going to show up and what that was ultimately going to mean to people. So we auditioned for Zazu and Rafiki and Pumbaa and Simone and the narrators and the PTR gang. and Serafina and Sarabi and all these roles. And we just and all the hyenas, everybody, every role.
Yeah.
And the community showed up.
Wow.
And it was like, we didn't think it was gonna be as many people that showed up.
How many? Like, give me a sense. How many? Like.
I think the room had about 200 people stay the entire.
Wow.
Between 150 to 200 people, even as just to listen to the audition.
Right.
Not everybody had come in to just audition. Some people stayed because it was just fun and it was hilarious. And it's just like, oh my gosh, these people sound just like them. And then it became a community investment because some people were like, oh my gosh, like, I hope so-and-so gets it, and I hope so-and-so gets this. And then obviously, you know, utilizing my marketing background, after we ended up doing, you know, the auditions on Saturday and then on Sunday, and it was even hilarious, like the PTR piece. So obviously, the way that we did the PTR audition, that was literally the last audition. And I was like, okay, if you want to be a part of the PTR gang, come on stage right now, and you have to show us your PTR skills. You have to change as many photos as possible within a short period of time. So that's how we found Laja. And I think Laura was the other person who auditioned, and we're like, okay, bet. And then obviously I had other friends like Francesca and Brandon who were like, hey, if you need help with this, also let us know. As far as the PTR stuff. So from there, we ended up going back into the production team, which is me, Mir, Chris, Cam, Miles, and Bumani. Ended up going into a meeting, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. This is so hard. How do we choose these people? So we ended up finding our people, and then on, I think that Monday or Tuesday of that week, so this was probably like November 21st or so.
Yeah.
We announced on Instagram, we announced on Clubhouse, like the same way you would announce like the winner of the award goes to this.
Right.
And I posted, utilizing my Twitter, we created these custom like you know, award show nomination cards. And we posted on Twitter saying, and the winner of Simba goes to Chris Boogie and Double Levon. So that's how we announced, you know,
I love
the Lion King group. And then that's how we ultimately became a family. And after that, we found our peeps. I connected with them all. We got on our first Zoom call, and then we disappeared from Clubhouse.
Wow. Huh.
We disappeared from Clubhouse publicly.
Okay.
Yes, and then we reemerged for promo. We did a meet the cast. We hosted a Christmas caroling event the day before Christmas, where we just had a jam session with a lot of the lovely choir and vocalists. So many talented people. We did a meet and greet again with the cast and introduced everybody. And we did like a little Clubhouse press tour or press run from room to room. And then, we reemerged the day of the show, which was December 26th. After hours and hours, we probably put in about 50 hours of rehearsal.
Wow.
In a matter of 3 weeks, so 2 weekends.
And talk me through, how many people are we talking about in the total cast and production? 40. Okay.
40. So 40 strangers that had never met each other ever. 4 different countries, and 20 different cities.
Wow.
Complete strangers from Clubhouse who had never met each other before, who had come together for, like, what I had always told the team and how I had chose to intentionally lead the team is, hey guys, we're doing this for love and for joy.
Yeah. We're
in the middle of a pandemic. We need to center joy and center bringing joy to these people, and ourselves. And anything outside of that is a bonus. And had no idea what the bonus would turn into. So then obviously December 26th comes, we have our dress rehearsal, and we're preparing our last run through. And yeah, literally ended 30 minutes before doors, our Clubhouse doors, and we got on stage. And during that performance at the 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern show, we went number 2 trending world nationwide on Twitter. And like, obviously, I'm not seeing any of it.
Right.
Like, I'm over here focused, so is the crew and the cast is focusing on like doing the performance. And I had no idea what was going on, like, out in the world.
So let me pause you. So is there a marketing group within the team that are like using hashtags and pushing out conversations, or like was it organic, or was there some coordination on your part?
So it was organic, and like, okay, so when we first posted the official poster, we hadn't established the hashtag. The hashtag came like really, really late, and the hashtag only came because we recognized there's no way that we're going to be able to talk to every single person in the audience. So we were like, okay, well, in order for people so that we can hear and give people an opportunity to interact with us, and so the cast and crew can like hear the messages, because like there's no like applause, there's no nothing in Clubhouse right now.
Right.
We were like, okay, well, let's establish this hashtag #LionKingCH,
right,
so that people can at least interact with us and we can respond to them there. Since instead of everybody being flooded, being via Instagram, and we would be able to see like how people are responding, since we can't really get live feedback in the app.
Right.
So that's how the hashtag came about.
Okay.
More organically, not from like, oh, let's strategically come up with a marketing thing so that we can go viral. No, it was like, how can we create a structure for us to consolidate all of these responses that we can't hear from the people who are in the audience?
So,
and
no, another question. I'm sorry. I have so many questions. So just there, because I'm sitting here processing all of the skill sets that had to go into this, not just the creative skill sets, but as an executive producer and director, what were some of the things you were concerned about before the curtains went up? Were there some things that you were like, oh shit, if this don't go right, was there anything that you particularly felt concerned about going into this?
Yeah, that the app was gonna crash.
Okay.
And so during one of our rehearsals, people were getting kicked out of the room like crazy.
Oh, okay.
Because Meek Mill's Culture Currency room had happened for the first time, I think.
Right.
And it had hit capacity, and people were getting kicked out.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, please, like, one, app don't break on our performance, and two, like, what am I gonna do if my cast and crew get kicked off stage during their part? So had you
I'm gonna cut you off, sorry. Had you already forewarned the folk, Paul and Rohan and team at Clubhouse, that you were about to bring 1 million people into this one room?
1 million people, that's funny. So we
how many people were in the room?
We hit the capacity, so I think it was like 5,004. Like, that's the max.
That's the max
anybody can have in a room
at
any given time or something like that. I don't know the exact number.
Gotcha.
Around that. But it was one of those things where we assumed, like, we didn't know how far. Because that, again, here's the thing about Clubhouse. Because you can't talk to everybody in the audience, you have no sort of understanding of what the audience is thinking.
Right.
So we had no idea how far and how wide it had gone.
Right.
As far as excitement goes, outside of what we had seen briefly, as far as like when I was doing the poster announcements on Twitter.
Right.
So I had no idea how far it was, but we did have an anticipation of like, okay, doing a guesstimate on numbers of how many people we think are on Clubhouse. If we get 5-10% of the capacity, like 5 or 10% of the app is X.
Right.
So if we get anywhere close to this, we might have a problem.
Right.
So so we tried to take that in stride and take that into consideration. We had a conversation with the team, the entire production team, myself included, had a conversation of like, okay, well, let's come up with some contingencies potentially if this doesn't go. But thank God, the day of the performance, it was fine.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have any crazy anything. I think what I heard is maybe some of the other rooms had problems, but our room in particular did not have any problems. I did hear that a couple of my cast mates and crew got kicked out, but they ended up back on stage before their parts, which was great and a blessing. And I was like thankful, so thankful. So
let's before we wrap up, I want to get a sense of I mean, obviously we've seen the feedback, and maybe you can talk about maybe some of the more precious comments you've received and some of the moments that have really the feedback beyond just the media stuff, you know, maybe some, you know, some things that have been whispered in your ear that make you feel like, wow, you know, this was something that I'm really glad that we pulled off. So I'd love to hear some of those. Yeah. And then the second part is, where does Noelle go from here, and how does this shift Noelle's vision around creativity and technology, and how Noelle uses her God-given talents in other ways? That's kind of what I want to hear as we begin to wrap up. And let me just ID this for those of you in Clubhouse world. Welcome to Culture & Co Weekly, brought to you by The Authenticated. The Authenticated is a community of creatives and investors and founders. We've been around for 3 or 4 years. We have a residency within Clubhouse. We've been here since May. We broadcast a show every week on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. on twitch.tv/keyinfluencer. Today, we're simulcasting both in Clubhouse and outside of Clubhouse, and having an incredible conversation with Noelle Chesnut Whitmore, representing the IE strong, representing her family and her name strong, and representing the creative culture that I am so excited about, and have big plans for in 2021. And she's given us a real journey into what went into behind the scenes of the Lion King production here on Clubhouse. For those of you who may have had a chance to hear it, for those of you who are new to the platform, I have a feeling this will be a thing. And keep your eyes, follow Noelle, stay connected to her. For those of you watching me on Twitch and Facebook and all the other places that we broadcast, thank you for being, super committed. This is the last episode of the year. It's been an incredible journey. It's made me get up every morning on Wednesday with excitement to kind of unload what's in my head, and to give to you kind of things that we're seeing in the community, deals that we're seeing, founders that we're inspired by, just where we believe that the needle of culture and is moving. And so I thank you for your commitment over this year, and to the Authenticated family, those of you in batch 0 who have been with us for a long time, thank you so much for your commitment. We've done 100 virtual dinners this year. It was really special for those of you who were able to come. We've done 3 conferences, and those have been amazing. We just did the Future of Cities with our friends over at 2020 Visions. Shout out to Andrew Yang, who was one of our keynotes, and Sir David Adage. It was really, really special what we were able to do with cities. And shout out to my family within Clubhouse, which sits kind of outside of some of the other worlds that we live in. Last night was special. We had a closed room. I really love the small rooms. I really love the small conversations. You guys know that. And really thankful to those of you. And shout out to my team. I see Omari on my team, Jessica Potts on my team, and some other folks who make all of this come true and really come to life. And so as we wrap up, I just would love for Noelle to kind of share, again, reflections, things you've heard, praise report a little bit, testimonies, and what's next for Noelle.
Well, first, before I get to all of that, I have to shout out and just send so much love and amazing, so obviously, sure, I led the team, I executive produced this, but this is one of those projects that is not possible without the whole crew and the whole team. So I wanted, before I jump into that, I would not be a good leader if I did not acknowledge all of the people who are a part of this and who help make this possible. So shout out to Bumani X, the current face of the app, who served as the musical director and producer. Shout out to Miles Greer, actor and producer, and who played Simba. Shout out to Mir Harris, actor and producer, who played Nala. Shout out to Chris Boogie Glover, who played Mufasa and also served as an actor and producer. Shout out to Cam De La, musical director and producer. Shout out to Duzzy Daniel, who came in last minute and killed it and served as like our technical director and my right hand on as far as all the direction and stuff and coordination with the team. Shout out to Scar, aka Dr. Victor, Gina, who played Zazu, Mendo, who played Timon, Brandon Rainey, who played Pumbaa, Tunde Show, who played Rafiki, Day Thompson, who played Shenzi, Felicia A. Brathwaite, who played Bonsai, Brittany Busy Abernathy, who played Ed, Sarabi, played by Aja Monet, Serafina, played by Shannon Yang. Narrator are one of our three amazing narrators, Catherine Aberan, Denzel Allen. Our PTR leads, Francesca Hoagie Laja, and our creative director and graphic designer who killed it on our posters and the imagery, as well as our credit poster, and ultimately helped design a lot of the PTR imagery. Star, aka Scope, our rest of our PTR gang, Mohit, Aurora, Kavan Noel, Jodine, Dorsey, our vocal doubles and choir and band, Lelon serving as our vocal double for Simba. Shout out to you. Shout out to Lauren Talise, who served as a vocal double for Nala. Sir Marcel, who played the vocal double as Scar. Austin Ashford, who played the ukulele and was a part of our band. Nick Knight, who was in the choir. Carrie Lee Tunde, Liesel, Valerie, Lebo, Lukewarm, Teddy, TT Tyson, Kalia, Yinka. I know that I am being centered and I'm grateful, but literally it couldn't have happened without everybody.
Yeah. So I appreciate you.
If I'm given a platform, there's no way that I can't shout out the whole gang and the whole people, everyone who's involved in that. So shout out to you guys. You guys are amazing. I love y'all, and thank you for trusting me and partnering with me on a vision in a moment where y'all are probably like, "What the hell is this girl doing?"
You know what? In preparation for this, I asked somebody. I'll just keep that name quiet. About your leadership skills, and they actually said that she's someone that you can trust. You're trustworthy, and that you just showed up and emerged, for this particular person as a leader, and they were, they really loved your leadership skills and your leadership abilities. And it was just great to hear. We kind of had a moment last night without you of people praising you in a private room as I prepared for this episode with you. Because like I said, you and I only got to know each other one time, and I was inspired by our connection. But I didn't know, I wasn't in the cast, I wasn't in the crew, so I didn't know a lot about your leadership skills. And I just want to give you back that you are beloved. You're beloved by people in this platform, and you can do anything. Like I always say to my kids, I used to drop them off at school. I used to be like, you have all the skills you need to be successful today. And I would say that about you. You've been given a gift, and you have everything you need to be successful. And I just want to be here for you and support you on that journey. And you're going to get a lot of inbound. You got to sift through the noise and the chatter and get to the good stuff. And I hope for you, what this brings is an opportunity to flex your wings and to continue to be a servant leader in the way that you have been. And I appreciate you. I respect you. And so on that note, what do you see for yourself moving forward?
So two things. I want to go very briefly go back to what you had said as far as the feedback.
Yes. Oh,
so
yes.
The part that made me lose my mind and ultimately cry.
Okay.
So obviously our initial intention was not to. We were gonna host an audience feedback moment that was, I think, initially planned for like an hour.
Yeah.
But ended up literally going till like 30 minutes before our next performance, and the outpour of support and love and the spin-off rooms from the community and Clubhouse and Twitter was so overwhelming and so appreciated. And I'm just like, I never, ever would have thought that we would have inspired and
so for those who are watching us in Twitch and other platforms, just because I want to like get out of Clubhouse language a little bit, explain to them that there wasn't just the production that happened on Clubhouse, but then there's all these like after parties, let's call them, or rooms.
Yeah, so there were like a reaction room, so like just the way that Clubhouse works for anyone who's not on there. So you host a room. So a bunch of people after the initial performance had hosted a bunch of reaction rooms because there were so many people, and I don't think that there was a way for us to be able to hear from the full 5,000 community who had been in the room.
Right.
And there were a bunch of spin-off reaction rooms, as well as, you know, the main room where we all had decided to stay to try to get feedback. And there was a bunch of reaction rooms, and like the beautiful thing about it, and this is why I love the team and the whole entire cast, is like we split up. Everybody tried to show love in any of the rooms so that someone was present in all the reaction rooms so that we can say, thank you, Clubhouse community, thank you, community, for your love and your support. And I ended up staying in the main room, and one of the most profound moments for me was there was a guy on the stage named Jorge who was in the room, and he was with his grandmother, who I believe was 88 years old. And he was talking about how what it meant to him, but then he also gave us the privilege of hearing from his grandmother's perspective. And he was like, this was the moment that I was able to share with her.
Wow.
And this is super reminiscent of the days when she used to listen to stories on the radio.
Right.
So at that moment, I was like, okay, great. This is a multi-dimensional, multi-layered family experience.
Yes.
So then someone was like, oh my gosh, you guys, you have to come into this room. Namani started a kid reaction room, and there are children on Clubhouse singing praises.
Wow.
So my last experience in the main room was talking to Jorge and hearing from him and his 88-year-old grandmother, and then going into the kids' room and singing and listening to 4-year-olds who thought that we were the real characters.
Oh, wow.
So when I heard the kids, oh my gosh, that is when I broke down.
Yeah.
That's when I cried, and that's when I realized, oh my gosh, like, not something that we thought was only supposed to, inspire and bring joy to a community on Clubhouse was an opportunity for people to experience this with their families.
Yeah.
And not just their kids, but with their grandparents. And in my opinion, in the first time in a long time, we were able to bridge technology and what I consider legacy, which is our grandparents and our family and our elders, into a joint space that allowed both of them to engage and connect together in a way that was reminiscent of both.
Right.
So for the elders, they were like reminiscent of the time and on the day when they had to listen to the radio to listen to stories.
Yeah.
And to our next generation of kids who are so ingrained in technology and understand how this works, and creating a medium where they both were able to come together and understand what was happening.
Wow.
And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, I could have never imagined that this would ever happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Where two totally different generations came together to experience things as a family,
right.
in the middle of a pandemic, and people were like, for a day, I thought I forgot I was in a pandemic, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is bigger. And I've always told the team that this is bigger than us. This was always bigger than us, but to see it be bigger than us was huge for me, and was such an affirmation of my testimony and who I am and who I know I'm supposed to be in this world. And I had never been affirmed in that way publicly. And it was one of those things where I was like, wow, this is bigger than me. And thank you, God, for allowing me to be a part of something that was in a time when so many people are hurting and have lost and have had wins and had successes. But this has been a really hard year for a lot of people. And I got to participate in an experience that brought people joy, and it meant so much to me. And it was so bigger than me. It was bigger than me. It was bigger than the cast. It was bigger than Clubhouse. It was bigger than Twitter. It was bigger than everything. And the fact that I got to participate in something that meant so much to so many people that I don't even understand the long-term effects of what happened was so, I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe about what happened and what it means to people, so much to the point where I'm overwhelmed. Like I after the first performance, or after all the performances, I had 546 text messages.
Wow.
I had messages on Twitter that I don't even understand how to respond to because I don't use Twitter.
What?
And then I have an inbox full of messages on Instagram that I'm just like, sensory overload.
Right.
I can't get to all these people, but I want them to know that I love and I appreciate them, and it means the world to me that this meant something to you.
Wow.
And to the point where Questlove is talking about it, and Ava DuVernay is talking about it, and people are sending me videos of their children interacting with the performance and them as a family, sending me photos of them as a family experiencing it, to the point where I found out that it was being broadcasted live on Instagram Live on a second device because people couldn't get in the room. And like just this moment where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And it couldn't have been done without, I'm going to just say it, God.
That's right. That's right.
God used me as a vessel. And the community came together to celebrate a moment that we needed in the middle of the pandemic. And we're being compared to moments like D-Nice's experience on Instagram,
sure,
and Versus, and now Lion King. And I'm just like, I couldn't have asked for this a day in my life. And I am grateful and I'm thankful that I was chosen to be a part of a collective movement and community conversation and moment for joy. Solely joy.
Yeah.
Solely joy. Nothing more, nothing less. And we achieved and we accomplished that mission unintentionally.
Right.
And people responded in a way that I could have never ever imagined in my wildest dreams.
If you guys in Clubhouse want to see a pretty lady cry tears of joy, join us at twitch.tv/keyinfluencer. There's some beautiful tears that are being shared. I had to go on solo layout. I was almost over here tearing up. I really love your story. Your story is inspiring conversations in the chat room. Maybe we could spend a couple of minutes taking questions from my Twitch universe, and then we'll stay in Clubhouse for a little bit if you don't mind, and take some folks there. But if you guys are out there watching on Twitch or Twitter or all the 5 other places that we broadcast, and you have questions, please put them in the chat room. We'd love to hear from you. And then for those of you in Clubhouse, we'll take some hand raises in a second. We'd love to bring you on stage and talk a little bit. It'll be dope. It'll give me a chance to run to the bathroom. I usually don't do 2-hour shows. So thank you for sticking around so long. But if you're in the chat room and you have a question, you have a comment, you have roses you would like to give Noelle, please put them in the chat room. You know I love your cities. Tell me what city y'all watching from. Dubai, Tel Aviv, Atlanta, Oakland, East Oakland, all the above. Tell us where you are. From Courtney Counts in Atlanta, he says, love Noelle's authentic openness and honesty. Yes, you have definitely been, you know, an authentic, no pun intended, an authenticated, open person today. And I just appreciate, I've gotten to know you so well just in this 2 hours. Any other questions in the chat room, please? We're going to log off of the video and go to our little club within Clubhouse in a second. Thank you, all of you in my OG platform. And I really appreciate you this year. You guys have been incredible. This has been an incredible time with Noelle. We have more guests. We already have a whole slate of people lined up for 21. We have, you know, more dinners lined up. All that's coming. I am just thankful. I was thinking about my daughter who was putting together a puzzle while we were listening to Lion King, and she always jokes, you know, when I'm on Clubhouse, and we've been producing, you know, some interesting things here. We had George Clinton on here and some other folks, and you know, I don't even think she cared about those. She was really into the Lion King, and my daughter's 19, you know, so that was really, really special. You have my family doing puzzles and doing great things. Tallahassee, Florida, I see you. I see you. Samia, I see you in the check-in. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else on the check-in in the video? We're going to shut this down in a minute and strictly hang out in Clubhouse in our simulcast. Thank you so much, Twitch world. You guys are special. I appreciate you. We're going to end this broadcast over here. And
thank you, Twitch fam. I know I can't see you, but thank you to everybody who was looking at me cry on socials.
Yes, they were watching you cry. Question for Noelle. What would you tell your younger self from Valencia King in Dallas?
I would tell my younger self, just be. Know that God has given you everything that you need. So just be. And whatever is supposed to be for you will be for you, and no one can ever take you that away from you. No person, no man. Get out your own way and just be.
There it is. There it is. Okay.